All right, let's call this meeting to order.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. Roll call, please.
Chairman Davis,
Present.
Chairman Lindsay,
President.
Chairman May,
President.
Chairman Drennan,
Present.
Chairman Weeks, present.
Are they all chairman?
We're all chairman. We're all
I
equal.
do it different every week. It keeps it interesting.
Ask for a motion to approve the agenda. So moved. Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Request approval for the minutes of May 14th, regular meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes held on May 4th, 2023.
Here's second. Anybody, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Okay, let's get down to new business. Discussion and approval of a subdivision ordinance. I'd like to hear a motion to open it up for discussion.
Make a motion to approve,
To discuss it.
make a motion to discuss and approve the subdivision ordinance.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's open for discussion. So what are we looking at here?
Mr. Chairman, there's two things that have happened since your last meeting. Number one, at the last hearing, you had asked for language to be added, and it's in the last line, that you cannot combine these administrative subdivisions with adjacent administrative subdivisions. Also, last week, we had an application come in for a summary subdivision for property that's here in the commercial corridor that already has service. So I've added a line under letter D that if you're over 1,200 linear feet away from service, or you already have service, so there's no engineering or infrastructure required, you would be eligible for this consideration. So those are the only two items that are different from your last consideration. We added the language, you can't combine them, and we added the language that in the commercial corridor, it's going to occur more in our commercial corridor where folks want to subdivide buildings out for ownership. And so that's why that's added there.
Okay. Have any other questions on?
I think after our last meeting, the staff, Santos, has put the language in where it's approved. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's obviously if the subdivision contains no more than 2 parcels of land, it can be done fairly quickly. But B, if it increases the number of total lots, no, I'm sorry, not B, the planning and zoning chairperson designee shall summarily approve the subdivision of land if. So is that this committee? will
Your
look at
designee or your designee.
Just the, so either way, it
Gets back to us, or back to somebody here, in theory.
So it's not just a rubber stamp at the front desk.
Who would that go to?
Santos.
Right, it comes here.
Okay,
Planning and
can
zoning.
you let us know?
Yes.
Okay. We have that in writing, that he's gonna be here to let us know. Thank you. Any other questions on this? Not really. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next item, discussion and approval of proposed amendment to Mountain View Boulevard, North Overlay District on property located between the southern right half of Flamingo Road and the northern right half of Halo Pines Terrace. Entertain a motion to discuss this.
I make a motion to discuss and approve the proposal amendment in the Mountain View Boulevard North Overlay District on property located between the southern right-of-way of Flamingo Road and the northern right-of-way of Halo Pines Terrace.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, it's open up for discussion.
So
Mr. Chairman, on your packet, I just wanted to show what is in the overlay Well, this is the overall overlay from the blinking light down to Sage Lane.
Right.
But your second attachment shows highlighted an aerial of what is still within the overlay around Halo Pines to the north. I included the properties to the south just for perspective. And then over on the right, it's the overlay exhibit as well. But this request from the conversations we had last time is maybe going a little beyond that intersection, maybe to the north. And so that's why this consideration is to look from Flamingo South to Halo Pines as well, and not just specific to that intersection at Halo Pines. I do want to point out that also in your packet in the back, there are 18 letters of support for the initial request that was looking at that northeast corner of residents from the village as well. But this is a little different from where it was last month, is that maybe looking a little farther to the north. But again, that's within your discretion on how you'd like to make this recommendation.
I'll just say my personal feelings are, if we're gonna change the ordinance that we put in place originally, which I'm certainly open to doing, but not to just
Limit.
gerrymander it, basically.
Sure.
I mean, I would recommend in this situation, if we're gonna do it, because I feel like if we do this, especially looking at this map, there's really one property, again, the subject property, that benefits immediately. But there's other properties inside the village that would benefit.
Right.
And I've actually inquired about the same type of business, but then they haven't pursued it because it's zoned out currently.
Right.
So my feeling currently is, and this is just my personal opinion, but it would be to leave the ordinance as written or open it up. And my suggestion would be from North Angel Fire Road north,
All the way to the light.
all the way to the light.
To our property. to where the
And
village
even
is.
strike the language about residentially subdivided, or, zoned properties. Because that doesn't necessarily eliminate the fact that you'd have residences close by. In other words, if there's residences on
Commercial property.
commercial properties.
And you've got that in the overlay. The overlay is different than if you're out of the overlay, then there's that residential buffer. So again, this body has the discretion to make the recommendation on the application we've got. If you are looking to keep it as it is, if you want to make amendments to it, again, that's within your discretion.
And I kind of feel like BJ, we're making it, and then we're gonna make it again, and then we're gonna make it again, and we'll make it again. Either we leave it the way we've got it, or we open the whole cotton picking thing up.
Well, I think we did our due diligence in the first place, and I think that what is there should be there. That's my opinion.
Thanks. Any other discussion? I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, we in council spent a long time going through where and how and everything about zoning all of this, and actually came back to us.
It came several times because we were also pressured by the state. We had to have it
That's what it
done.
was.
We had to have it done by a certain time, and we did. We did all that.
But on that note, I mean, we may have pushed it through to have something by the deadline we were given.
Correct.
But we did spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time, on multiple things.
Again, Mr. Chairman,
So-
this is a recommendation your body can put forward. It still has to be considered at the council level too. And so if the consideration is to really open it up and put it on both sides in all commercial districts with all the other provisions, again, it's not allowed by right in any district. You still have to get a conditional use permit. You still have to make an application and have a public hearing. And people can have an opportunity to speak on the application as well. And so I don't want folks to think if the recommendation would be to open it up completely in our commercial districts north of Angel Fire Road, that's still not a guarantee that it would still get secured if someone didn't agree with the application for a conditional use permit. I think that's still the protection layer that everybody felt should still be reviewed to make sure it's site specific, that it works on those properties.
So again, I will say, based on what Santos just said, I would I would be in favor of opening it up from North Angel Fire Road to the blinking light with those provisions
Still remaining.
still remaining. So that we're not constantly revisiting this, because I think
Yeah,
there's not a lot of space in the north area. Again, if we deny this, maybe those requests won't come. But, again, so we can avoid this situation.
or we just leave it the way it is, and I don't,
Well, it's like you said, this is just too specific.
we,
I'm afraid if we approve this, then the next building, and then the next
next
building.
building, and then the next.
Because there are,
How much property did we set north on our overlay district to take care of this issue?
I mean, the overlay goes pretty deep on the west side of 434. It's not a straight line. You've got some lots, 2 lots removed from 434 that are in it. Then you got all of the lots that are adjacent to 434. But it also wraps around 64, almost to the RV park.
So there's a lot of,
Now, on the east side of 434, you've got, on your map here, Mr. Chairman, it shows the whole overlay.
right,
And you've got this blue portion here
right,
is included. All the property on both sides of the entrance of the airport are in it. And then on the south side of the airport it's right here before the sweet shirt shop. So you've got on the east side a lot of vacant land, but you do have this commercial property here. If you wanted to include from north of Angel Fire Road north, well, now you pick up the empty Washington Federal building. You might pick up some buildings in that shopping center adjacent to it.
Mountain View Mall.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there are different things, if you start going that way, that's, even if there's an empty space here next to Rockies, that would open up. But there are also provisions in state statute that you can't sell cannabis on the same property that you have a liquor license to. So I'm not quite sure where the lot lines are on Rockies and the shopping center to the north. So there may be some other barriers going south on some of these properties that sell alcohol.
so you can't sell alcohol, how's that gonna work?
So you can't be on the same property selling alcohol and cannabis.
So like the mini mart couldn't sell it, Lowe's
Right.
couldn't sell it.
Zeb's can't have a box out in the front. They can't do
Can't
that.
have vending machines out there and dispensing?
No.
Any other questions? Comments, concerns? Condescending marks?
The only thing I would add is that if we go south, so we got C1, C2 and the overlay. And we've got O2 in the overlay, so it's covered there. But we've got O2 going south that's not in the overlay. And so if you're going to make a recommendation to move it south, I would encourage that there be language to add the CUP requirements in that zoning district, because right now it's not even eligible for consideration. But if you were to make it eligible for consideration, I would recommend adding that layer of a conditional use permit.
I think all of it should have a conditional use permit.
But that, I agree, I think it should all match together.
Right.
Yeah, there shouldn't
Be any just
Yeah.
rubber, just, yeah. So that-
Remind me, did we set a limit on the amount of dispensaries that we would allow?
We did not.
Well,
That
you
actually came up in the town hall.
can't. By state statute, you can't.
So that conversation did come up at the town hall. People wanted only, they wanted them so far apart or
Right.
so close to each other. And
The
then
market will take care of it.
we struck that. So, I mean, you do have the flexibility if you wanted to, but that was part of the conversation we had, is that what would the harm be if they were side by side, two different operators?
I thought we talked about maybe putting a limit to 3, wasn't that what you?
Well, I remember all the discussion, I remember we were given some requirements that we had to abide by.
Right.
Yeah, density is an allowance that you do have. But that was a conversation I remember
We did not.
where we chose not to be that restrictive.
Okay.
Now, Eagle Nest has a ordinance, I think they limit it to just one vendor. I don't know if they did, but there are some other instances where they're looking at, like you could be in the historic overlay, so that wiped out a large part of the
Right.
Central Avenue in Albuquerque, that kind of thing.
We have no start.
Well, but that was one example where a municipality was trying to address the density issue. If we took this off the board because it's a historic overlay,
Mhm.
now you had to go to other commercial properties. So that was something that was brought up when we looked at it, and it didn't make any of the final rounds because I think what we heard was that you didn't want to be that restrictive, but you didn't want it to be open-ended while you added the conditional use permit.
Okay.
Well, I think just being on the west side and not allowing anything on the east side, I don't know. I mean, it just needs to be relooked at.
I mean, again, I think if we open it up, but then can look at each application individually.
With a conditional use permit.
Yeah, but as far as the zoning is concerned, we've already seen the first hiccup with our current zoning.
It was going great.
And we got an applicant.
Yeah, but we got two applicants. The first one is still working through a plat, so
But he's in the zoned area.
that's
Right,
correct.
so-
He does have a conditional use permit.
Right.
So they're vested. It's just,
Just going
we
through
haven't
the-
seen anything.
Right, just going through the process.
Chair, can I say something? I mean, whatever, even if you recommended to leave it as it is
Right.
and don't send it through, it still goes to council.
Huh?
There's still two public hearings. I mean, it's up to them, so
So if
whatever's
we deny it,
recommended,
it'll
there's
still go to
still.
council?
So if you deny it, the applicant has to request for an appeal.
Right.
It's not a guarantee. There's an additional fee with that. But again, your recommendation is the recommendation that still has to be considered by council.
Yeah, without
But even if
recommendation.
you don't recommend, it
Right.
can still go
If
to
you
council.
still has-
Yeah.
Council
That's it.
decides.
Can, but it's not automatic.
Right.
No, and there's two public hearings, et cetera, but so whichever way, it's still, it will go to
So
council
no matter what.
that you don't
Correct.
recommend
It's not
if
no
you
matter
choose
what.
to leave it the way it is, or
It's
it's
not no
open.
matter what.
They have to appeal,
They have
Well,
to appeal it,
when they
have
appeal it.
Appeal approved.
Right,
so it's not an automatic.
so if they.
Some
if they don't appeal
applicants,
it, if they're-
and I don't know what it's like here, but in other municipalities, some applicants choose not to contest the denial. But that's within their discretion.
So again, I don't have necessarily an issue with that particular property, it's just how we're going about bringing it in. That's my concern.
Okay, so it's not-
Exactly.
Everybody should have the same opportunity.
So if that's the way we're going, then what we'll need to do is deny this and then make a motion, what DJ just said, to.
Unless you wanted to amend your motion to,
It would be better to amend it.
if the maker of the motion would like to amend it
First,
to incorporate what BJ had said, you could do that.
Okay.
Both of them would have to agree to the amendment.
If the other commissioners feel the same way.
Right.
Well,
So that's-
or willing to make that.
Make that motion, right. So I'll call for, all in favor?
Or do we want to try to amend it?
That's where this comes up to.
So to get the amendment, they need to state it.
Right.
And then whoever seconded needs to agree to that amendment. And now you can look at that motion. Rather than denying and redoing it all over again, you could let's just amend what's on the floor.
So would it be a cannabis ordinance,
No, it's a zoning amendment.
zoning amendment for
Cannabis sales
cannabis sales?
within all properties east of 434, north of North Angel Fire Road to Highway 64.
Are we extending the overlay? Is that what?
No, we're not extending the overlay.
We're just extending.
This application was specific to the overlay, but the conversations you've had is to go beyond the overlay. So it'd be
But with the same
with a conditional use permit.
conditional.
So that's what you gotta put in.
They can have a bigger.
If you want,
If that's what y'all want, then that's what you need to
have
say.
any other discussion, or if it's,
So you can either, right,
if we need additional discussion, but that's my personal feeling again.
Okay, I'm gonna take a stab at this. I'm gonna amend the motion to, well, we're not gonna approve that today. We're gonna discuss it in the next
If
meeting.
we vote on it, it'll kick up to council.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the amendments to extend the cannabis sales and distribution in the overlay district to extend
I was saying North Angel Fire Road is the boundary.
from
To the
North Angel
south.
Fire Road south
No,
to
back to
the,
the north. No, North Angel Fire Road,
to the Bleacher
To
Road,
the north.
just north.
To south of Highway 64. Yeah.
to south of Highway 64.
Now, if somebody
Or
could
to
read,
Highway 64.
now, if somebody could read that back so we make sure we're clear on.
So Jeff, read it the way it's written on there and then say you're amending it per,
Okay,
to make it a little clearer.
That doesn't affect going east, does it?
Yeah,
It would open up, and that's
So
part of the,
go right
that's
up
part of,
North Angel Fire Road too?
no,
No.
the way the motion was,
North Angel Fire Road north. So the way I came to this myself was just the residential, more starts south of North Angel Fire, commercial north.
Mhm.
So our current commercial district that's
So we're still
developed.
talking 434.
All the way to 434.
if you wanted, if you wanted to add,
Excuse me, you're right.
you might as well look at it all.
if you wanted to make sure it's clear that it's commercial properties along the east side of 434 between North Angel Fire Road and Highway 64, so that you don't get into confusion of the other commercial properties closer to the Chili, you could say that.
Because there's overlay, there's no overlay.
There's no
There's no overlay there, that's what I'm saying.
So-
The overlay controls that.
Right, so,
This wouldn't,
Right, so let me write this down.
right?
no, you're right. I mean, the way
Right.
you're talking is it's adding more than the overlay.
Because all it states is that it's north of North Angel Fire Road,
Commercial.
commercial,
zone.
but, yeah, that might limit it, right?
Well, it
It
does,
does.
and we still have in our ordinance that it can't be within so many feet of a residentially zoned
Sure,
300.
area. Now,
but I would prefer to make sure that.
of course.
But you're not proposing that that changes, right?
And even,
300?
even if that
No,
occurred,
no,
it still
no.
goes to council.
Give me a second, I'm trying to write it down.
You just make it legible.
Well, now that
Yes.
Yes.
Read it as it is and then say with amendments as.
so you could say, here's the way you could say
Discussion
it.
approval of proposed amendments to the Mountain View Boulevard North Overlay District on property located between the southern right-of-way of Flamingo Road and the northern right-of-way of Halo Pines,
I don't want these guys.
So you-
amended to include commercial properties on the east side of 434 from North Angel Fire Road to Highway 64.
Right. So you,
Well, he doesn't have to say all that. That's what
So you
he's
can
trying to
just-
tell
you
you.
can
He's the
just-
clerk. He's the
Just
clerk.
say with amendments as discussed with them.
And then
Well,
you
there you
rewrite
go.
the ordinance for the council.
you make
So
it
read-
easy.
It's not that.
Letter B, and then at the end of letter B, say with amendments as discussed by the commission, which is.
Well, do I start with amend,
You have to read it
amending the
exactly.
discussion and approval?
Motion for discussion and approval of.
Okay, all right. I'd like to make a motion to discuss and approve the proposed amendments to the Mountain View Boulevard North Angel Fire, North Overlay District on properties located between the southern right-of-way of Flamingo Road and the northern right-of-way of Halo Pines Terrace, amended as discussed,
Yeah.
And to be with amendments as discussed.
with amendments as
And
discussed.
then he has to rewrite.
Thanks.
Do I hear a second?
I have to second it.
Yes, you do. Okay.
You started it, so.
Now-
So I think in this part, Mr. Chairman, it's important if this is the conversation that we also make sure we include the conditional use permits and that we have some semblance of going east,
Not in the residential. conditional use.
So the conditional use standards would remain. We have conditional use standards in the C1s, C2s. We do not have them in the O2 because the O2, we have them in already in the overlay. So what's behind us is an O2 where the Wall Street and Federal Building is. So I would encourage that we carry that forward, the
Right.
conditional use permit for those remaining commercial districts.
Yeah, because this whole thing, what we're talking about, every part of it needs to be conditional use and
That mirrors-
not in residential.
Correct. That mirrors the rest of the ordinance. That does.
But you need to call for a vote first.
So,
So you've made a motion.
we got a
with
second.
the- with the
All in
amendments.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So that motion has been done. Now, we're moving right along.
So is there, I don't think we can move right along to a next agenda item. I think we're still on this one.
We still need to.
Because you need to finalize, I recommend we finalize this motion to mirror the conditional use
Start
permit.
us. You're wrong.
Oh.
They keep going.
Okay.
You've got the work to do now, not them.
That's how we planned it.
Yeah.
I need caffeine.
Can you make your coffee?
No, that'll kill me.
Okay, so we're just
Okay,
going to
thank
make
you,
sure
Mr.
that
Chairman.
that's all, it's going to be conditional use, not residential.
That's correct.
Perfect, all right. Moving right along. Item C, I request a motion for discussion on approval of a variance sign regulations for 3377 Mountain View Boulevard.
I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the variance to sign regulations for 3377 Mountain View Boulevard.
I'll state at this time that I have to recuse myself from voting in
Back
this
against the wall.
matter.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Let's open this up for section, discussion. What do we have here? You got,
So, Mr. Chairman, you changed your sign ordinance to allow variances to the regulations. This property owner, this operator has a sign that's legally permitted in front of their establishment. The code reads you can either get that sign or a directional sign on another piece of property saying, hey, 8/10 of a mile, half mile, you get one or the other. So what they would like is there used to be a directional sign that's included in your packet. Google Street View from 2008 actually showed this. It was a different establishment there, but over here where the restaurant is, but there was a directional sign that says, hey, it's 8/10 of a mile, ski shop, whatever it was. So they are asking for a variance to get the directional sign in addition to their premise sign that they've got legally permitted. So they originally came in asking for both. I could only give them one permit. And I advised them we would have to change our ordinance. And it's a good thing we did, because that's when we also did the LED signage as well, all those other things, we incorporated it in. And so this request is in a nutshell, give them the allowance for two signs. One on 434 saying, hey, it's up on the right, 8/10 of a mile, basically, in addition to the one that they've got. And the applicant is here. I think that they've had some issues with folks blocking their signs on the adjacent property. And so they feel this is important to still keep directions for folks to understand where it's located.
and so there's already, they have permission to put the sign up at the other location where it is? Or is it?
Not yet.
Or, I know, I mean, from the owner and that.
Yes, they are also the same owner.
Okay, so that's my question, because, so how big of a sign are we talking?
Whatever is allowed by code,
What is
it's like
that?
a 4x8 or
6x5.
6x5.
6x5? Couldn't remember what it was.
It's not small, but it's not super big.
It's not, right?
Correct.
It's not the size as the billboard that used to be there in 2008.
So it's, okay.
That billboard isn't there anymore. Huh?
That's correct, but there used to be,
There was
that
one.
was a directional sign that
No, I
says,
understand, but there's
it's not there, no.
No.
I don't think there's frames up anymore on that sign.
not on the billboard, but there is one that would suffice for what we're asking.
There's a frame out where they could install their sign.
How far off the highway is that sign? Looks like about 30 feet.
Well, that's the old sign.
Yeah, but it'd be similar in location, wouldn't it?
Just to the edge.
Whatever the edge of their property is, it would have to be on their property, not the right of way.
Are there any setbacks for signs?
Signs can be on the property line, but they have to have permission from that owner. There are some certain design standards. In this instance, it can't be in the right of way, so we've got to make sure that it's on their lot and not outside. But you can have feather flags right on your property line. You can have sandwich signs on your property line.
Any other questions?
Well, I guess my concern is precedent. And not that a variance is gonna cause, but everybody will want to have directional signs. Whether they own the property or not, I could lease the property and ask for a variance or whatever. And with the provision that you can have feather signs and other types of directional things.
So would there be a number, like, okay, so they just want one sign?
Correct.
Well, they have a sign on.
Yeah, but if we do something here now, are we gonna say, okay, one directional sign and one sign on the property, not 15 directional signs?
You only get one.
You only get one.
That's already stated.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is the sign was already there, like you say. That would be my question on this
When the
thing.
sign came down, that kind of ended the grandfather.
It did, and so did the tenant and operator, but at the same time, it shows that there used to be a directional sign saying up ahead.
Yeah,
right.
There's, in this instance, it would be a restaurant.
Maybe we look at the ordinance in the future to say you're not allowed to lease property for signs.
Right, you must own.
If that's something you'd like for me to put together.
So I think that would be, because, yeah, and I think the way it should be is you should own the property and you have to maintain the sign. And, we don't want any just, we don't want Jeff out there with his paintbrush painting and stuff. Right. Within the standards.
The other thing in the situation is we do want people to find these businesses.
Correct.
So if you're gonna make it so that they've got to own a property to put a sign on, isn't that detrimental?
Mhm.
Well, that's a different conversation, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it just-
Because right now, our code says you just have to have permission of that property.
Permission of it?
Right.
But if you wanted to make it where you have to do ownership, I do think that's just
That's a different discussion.
Huh?
It's not that you would have to use.
It would have an expiration date, we would look at it again, discuss.
Or lease the property or lease the sign?
The
They can't lease out the sign.
Yeah, I totally do. So, what were you saying?
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
No.
DJ had to recuse himself, so the motion, so it's 2-1. So, motion approved. Moving on to, D. Entertain a motion to discuss and approve the amendment to site plan for 3627 Mountain View Boulevard. Yeah, where'd that one go?
I make a motion to discuss and approve the variance, no. Make a motion to discuss and approve the amendment to site plan for 3627 Mountain View Boulevard.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, open it up for discussion. So what do we have here?
So, Mr. Chairman, back in 2001, you had approved a site plan for self-storage on this property, and you had storage areas where that they could put future buildings. Well, they've come back last week and they would like to put a storage building, but it's outside of what was previously approved. So I did an exhibit on the back that shows what we've basically done with this request is amend the envelopes
Just make it-
for buildings They would still have to comply with the setback on the overlay along 434, 50 feet. The amendment on Friday, this building here on the corner, I went ahead and ran it back because you can have a 0 setback on that portion of the property as a side yard. And we had like a 20-foot, 15-foot setback. So to try to minimize the need to come back for future amendments, we just made the envelope a bit larger there. But that's what this request is, because you had, and the council had stamped, everything needed to be within these envelopes, and they came for permit outside of that area. That's why this revision is being brought forward for you for consideration.
So at the 0 setback, there's no easements or anything?
Not on that side of the property.
Right.
But the dimensions for this building here still considers the 50-foot required setback
On the
along
front.
434.
Any discussion? Any other comments? Hearing none, pass for motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Okay, moving on to the last item on the agenda. Request a motion to approve, discuss and approve the site plan for the property located on tract of land within lots 49 and 50 of the Moreno Valley Third Subdivision.
I make a motion to discuss and approve the site plan for property located on the tract of land within lots 49 and 50 of the Moreno Valley Third Subdivision.
Do I hear a second? Okay, what do we got here?
Mr. Chairman, this is all located in the overlay, and the overlay requires any new construction to have an approved site plan. And so what you have on your exhibits is the site plan layout for 56 buildings that could be built. There are, on the second sheet, conversations that still need to take place outside of this review. This property is seeking to be developed with 56 tiny homes. We've seen permits for 5 2-story, and I use air quotes, 2-story tiny homes. There's 2 loft areas above, common area, kitchen, and living as you come in.
Total square feet or?
That's 700 square feet.
700.
So because in the overlay, you have residential allowances R1, 2, 3, 4. R3 allows 20 units to the acre. This would comply with that. The other R3 standards for construction, they can comply with. There are some questions about utilities, because on this page, the property owner here, that's 2 lots behind them, highlighted in yellow, is seeking to come with permits for 84 townhomes. And so I've had conversations independent with each that you guys need to coordinate. What you see in the green and the pink is a 60-foot easement that's used for ingress, egress, and utilities, that they need to talk to each other. They've had, this gentleman with this request has already reached out to our water department. He's talked to Chris about size of pipe, where connections need to go. He wants to do some of this improvement this year, starting to at least dig the ditch and run the line.
This is the Panhandle lot
That's correct.
that's pioneered the road.
It's right
By
between
the
Zeb's and
Zeb's,
Alpine.
right,
Yes,
got it.
that's correct.
Yeah.
We now have another conversation we need to have with utilities, because I think those conversations were really just for this development, 56 units.
Right.
But now if we know we've got 84 coming behind us, that size of pipe needs to be upgraded. And we need to look at the depth of the sewer main so that we can have enough fall going westward. But I wanted to bring that to your attention, that this application, the only item for consideration is if, as a site plan, 56 units can be developed.
Yeah, and they would also be, they'd have to comply with the, a water availability.
That's correct. So we've got,
Other tiny houses.
that's correct. So,
Okay.
Tiny water availability checks.
Tiny water.
tiny water. Yes, sir. They still have to comply with that. Since this, and this is, I don't think is within the purview of the site plan, you'll notice that they show a sewer main coming in, and then right behind Zeb's, it angles out. I don't think that that angle is gonna be functional anymore if we know we've got to extend the main going west. So the only purview for consideration is 56 new structures,
Right.
tiny homes. The R3 standards,
So when we say tiny homes, are we using a definition? I mean,
so
they're homes.
Permanent
They are
foundation.
700 square foot homes.
that's correct, they are. So tiny homes can be manufactured and delivered on wheels and set on wheels. I've told the owner, we don't allow mobile homes.
Okay.
So he's agreed that he's gonna use the spec kit option and build them all on site. And
Okay.
because of that, there'll be a permanent foundation, and there's not gonna be confusion as this is a mobile home.
They're just small homes.
That's correct. That's correct, they are.
Micro home.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's great. I just wanted to, that definition can be,
But I don't think it's right to hold this guy waiting on a decision from the other guy. I mean,
And we don't have to do that.
Okay.
What we really need, that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention, because there's other things in the pot.
because that guy-
But this applicant just needs consideration, or 56 new home construction, is that okay?
Right.
So that I can take that forward to council.
Does that falls within the guidelines that set forth, isn't it? I mean, it was a number of houses per,
It does fall with the R3 standards, that's correct. And
But
the R-
we don't want him to pull, have to resize.
He hasn't done
What I'm
that.
saying is the other guy, there's a little bit of coordination here is what we're looking for. Right?
And that is outside the purview of a site plan, because that's subterranean, your water and your sewer.
big picture, yes.
Yeah.
so mainly, we're just wanting to know if there's 56
If 56 units.
smaller
is a-
housing.
Small homes are okay.
Is that, so that's what we'll be voting on.
Okay, so in that situation, does each tiny home have a little parking bay and all that sort of stuff? There's enough area for that?
Yes, this layout shows road access that's maneuvering, that meets standards, and would allow for utility easements to service all those lots.
Snow storage and the
Yes.
whole.
So I do see that the roadways are only, from what I can tell, the wise is 23 foot.
23
5
foot,
inches.
yes. Pretty small.
And then the village standard to be, if it was ever to be adopted, it'd have to, for the village to ever adopt it, if that were to take place, wouldn't it need to be a 60-foot right of way?
It would.
So this would prevent that from ever happening. In
Yeah,
other words,
it would be a
have to be
private.
privately
it'd be
maintained.
private. That's
Okay.
correct.
So this, whoever, owns this, which should be.
Because it's not gonna be sold, these are not gonna be sold individually, it's gonna remain one parcel.
It's one big parcel, that's correct.
So it's a rental development and not a,
Long-term.
and they're not
And
gonna
it is
sell it.
long-term, not short-term.
But it's not deeded that way, is it?
Not yet. He is gonna have an HOA created on this, but he's not subdividing is the
Right.
bottom line. So he's not, because he's not subdividing,
Then we don't.
this would have to be private because it doesn't meet our street standards of right-of-way dedication.
But as of right now, he could short-term rent them as,
Could,
could. I'm
right.
just saying that that's not.
But that's like 4 steps down.
Exactly, I'm just saying, we can't say that they are.
He may be trying to get some funding for
Yeah,
Quite
he's
frankly,
employee housing.
He is
or-
saying.
Oh, and
No, I think that's great, I wanna make sure that.
All right, so the only thing our consideration should be based upon is it meets everything, so do we want 50 smaller houses?
56.
56, excuse me. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Hi.
Motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Call for a motion to end this.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Status
Thank you.
and
So you're done?